There is something happening in the heavens right now that has never occurred before in the history of your life. Not last year, not in your childhood, not during any season you have already walked through. Something is unfolding at this very moment that is so specific to you, so precisely calibrated to where you are standing right now, that the angels assigned to other people have stopped to witness it. I need you to stay with me through every word of this, because what God has authorized me to deliver to you today is not a general blessing or a recycled promise. This is a direct transmission for the one who has been feeling like they exist on the edges of everything, the edges of belonging, the edges of understanding, the edges of finally breaking through into what they were made for. You woke up today carrying something heavy, didn't you? Not the kind of heavy you can explain to people at a dinner table. The kind of heavy that lives behind your eyes. The kind that makes you scroll through the noise of the world and feel like a foreigner in a land everyone else seems native to. That feeling is not a defect. That feeling is a compass. And today, God is using that compass to point you toward the most extraordinary revelation about the being He assigned to walk beside you, your angel, and what that angel has just done on your behalf in a realm you cannot see but absolutely feel. Before we go any deeper, I want you to do something. Type the words "angel fire" in the comment section right now. Not because it is a ritual, because it is a declaration. You are telling heaven, through that simple act, that you receive what is about to be released into your spirit. And if this channel has not yet become a space where you encounter God in unexpected ways, subscribe right now. Turn on every notification, because we do not do ordinary here. We go deep, we go real, and we go straight into the heart of what heaven is saying to the ones the world often overlooks. Stay with me. What your angel did, it changed something permanently. There is a passage tucked inside the book of Daniel, in the 10th chapter, that most people rush past because they are looking for the dramatic visions and the end-time prophecies. But there is a moment in that chapter so quietly devastating, so personally revelatory, that once you understand it through the lens of your own life, you will never read the Bible the same way again. Daniel had been fasting and praying for 21 days. Not casual praying, the kind of praying where you are so desperate for God to move that food becomes irrelevant. The kind where you lose track of what day it is because you are so consumed by the weight of what you are carrying. And then an angel appears to him, not a soft, glowing presence with a gentle word. This being causes Daniel, a man who had survived lion's den and royal courts, to fall face down on the ground. The men standing near Daniel could not even see the angel, but they felt such a trembling that they ran and hid. And here is what the angel says. He says, "From the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words." Your words were heard from the first day. That means every time you prayed and felt like your voice hit the ceiling and came back down unanswered, it was heard. Every time you cried in a car alone because you did not want anyone to see the depth of your desperation, heaven registered every syllable. Every time you whispered something to God in the dark that you were almost ashamed to say because it felt too vulnerable or too impossible, it was recorded. Every single word. But then the angel reveals something that reframes the entire silence. He says a prince, a dark spiritual force, withstood him for 21 days. He was dispatched immediately, but the battle in the unseen realm was so intense that he needed reinforcement. Michael, one of the chief princes, had to come and help. What does this mean for you? It means the delay you experienced was not divine indifference. It was divine warfare being waged on your behalf. It means your angel was fighting for your breakthrough in a dimension you could not perceive, and the fight was real enough to require backup. Now I want to tell you something about your angel specifically, not angels in general, but the one assigned to you, and why what just happened in the spirit is unprecedented in the architecture of your personal story. Every person on this earth is accompanied by a spiritual being whose entire assignment is oriented around one life, yours. This is not a minor theological footnote. In Matthew 18:10, Jesus says something that most sermons skim over too quickly. He says, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven." Always. Not sometimes, not when things are going well, always. Your angel has unbroken, constant access to the face of God. That means there is never a moment when the being assigned to your life is out of communication with the source of all power. There is never a gap. There is never a delay in information. Whatever God decides about you, your angel knows immediately. But here is where this becomes specific to you, chosen one. What your angel has never done before is not an action that exists in any theological textbook. It is not something that could be predicted by looking at your past or by measuring your faithfulness on a human scale. What your angel has done is enter into a form of intercession that is usually reserved for different circumstances. A form of standing that goes beyond standard guardianship. The word for this in the ancient Hebrew tradition is something close to the concept of a goel, a kinsman redeemer, a one who stands in for another at personal cost. Your angel has essentially staked something in the spiritual economy on the trajectory of your life. Not because you are perfect, not because your faith has been unwavering, but because God looked at the raw material of who you are, the broken pieces, the persistent hunger, the unshakable knowing that you were made for more, and declared something over you that your angel has now moved to enforce. Let me tell you about a woman in Scripture whose story holds a hidden prophecy that maps almost perfectly onto what you are experiencing right now. Her name was Hannah, and she was a woman familiar with a specific kind of loneliness, the kind that is surrounded by people and yet utterly alone in what she carried. Peninnah, the other wife, had children. She had proof of God's favor, evidence she could point to. Hannah had a husband who loved her deeply, and yet could not reach the exact wound she was carrying. He said, "Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" And the answer, as loving as his heart was no. Because the longing inside Hannah was not just for a child, it was for the manifestation of a promise that only God could deliver. She goes to the temple. She prays so intensely that the priest Eli, watching her lips move with no sound coming out, assumes she is drunk. And this is so important. The people who are closest to the house of God, the religious, the established, the ones who know all the protocols, sometimes misread the most genuine desperation as disorder. Has that happened to you? Has your depth of seeking been misinterpreted as instability? Has your intensity been labeled as too much? Hannah's prayer was so beyond normal that it looked broken from the outside. And yet, that prayer, that wordless, body-shaking, from-the-gut prayer, is the one that God chose to answer with a son who would reshape the spiritual history of a nation. Your deepest prayers, the ones you could not even articulate, the ones that were just groaning and tears and silence, were not your weakest moments. They were your most powerful ones. Because in Romans 8:26, Paul writes that the Spirit intercedes with groanings too deep for words. Heaven has a language for what you cannot say, and your angel carries that language before the throne constantly. There are moments in history, rare, unrepeatable moments, when heaven bends differently than it has before. Theologians might call them kairos moments, not chronological time, but appointed time, the fullness of time, the moment that has been held in compression, waiting to release. We see this in the Exodus. For 400 years the Israelites cried out. 400 years of bondage, of prayers ascending, of generation after generation living and dying inside the same captivity. And then one day God says to Moses from a burning bush, "I have surely seen the affliction of my people. I have heard their cry. I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them." 4 centuries of prayers, and then the most concentrated sequence of miracles in the Old Testament. Plagues that defied natural law, a sea that split open, manna appearing in a wilderness where nothing grows, water from a rock, a pillar of fire by night. The 400 years were not God being slow, they were God being thorough. He was assembling every element required for a deliverance so complete that it would become the defining story of a people for millennia. And when the moment arrived, it arrived with a force that nothing could stop. You have been in your own version of that waiting room. I do not know how many years it has been. I do not know what you have lost in the waiting. But I need you to hear this clearly. The length of your waiting is not evidence of your abandonment. It is evidence of the magnitude of what is being assembled for your release. The longer the compression, the more extraordinary the explosion of grace. Your angel has been part of that assembly process. And what that angel has just done is signal something to the throne room. The appointed time has arrived. The pieces are in position. The one who has been prepared is ready. Release what has been held. I want to go somewhere in Scripture that almost no one takes a congregation, because it requires sitting with a kind of mystery that our results-oriented minds resist. It is the moment in Genesis 32 when Jacob wrestles through the night with a being who will not be named. Jacob is alone. He has sent everyone else across the river. He is facing the most terrifying morning of his life, a reunion with a brother he had wronged, a brother who, last he heard, was coming with 400 men. He is at the end of every strategy he has ever devised. He is out of options. And in that raw, resourceless night, something arrives and wrestles with him. They go through the whole night together, and this is extraordinary. The being, at any moment, could have ended the match. We know this because when morning approaches, the being touches Jacob's hip with one touch, and immediately Jacob's hip is dislocated. Just one touch. The entire night of wrestling was not because the being could not win. It was because the being was drawing something out of Jacob. A persistence, a hunger so fierce it refused to release even when the pain became unbearable. And then the being says, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." And Jacob says something that stops the cosmos. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." That line, out of pain, out of exhaustion, out of a dislocated hip, out of everything, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." That is the posture that changes the architecture of a person's life. Not the performance of faith when it is easy, but the grip that refuses to release in the dark. Jacob does not receive a new name because he was strong. He receives it because he was relentless. You have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. Your angel has witnessed you wrestle, and your angel has reported to God what it saw, someone who would not let go. Here is the part of this message that may shake something loose in you, because it moves from the poetic to the profoundly personal. God does not assign angels the way corporations assign employees to files. This is not a bureaucratic arrangement. The being assigned to you was chosen for you before you were formed. Before your parents made the choices that shaped your environment. Before the wounds that created your deepest questions. Before the gifts that make you feel like you see the world differently than everyone around you. In the book of Exodus, when God speaks to Moses about sending an angel before the Israelites into the promised land, he says something remarkable. He says, "My name is in him." Not just my authority, not just my power, my name. The name of God in Hebrew understanding is not merely a label. It is the full expression of character, presence, and intention. To say that God's name is in an angel is to say that the fullness of God's intention lives inside that being's assignment. When your angel moves on your behalf, it is not just an angel acting. It is God's own name in motion. What does that mean for the thing your angel just did? It means that whatever unprecedented action occurred in the realm you cannot see, it carried the full weight of God's character. It was not a minor administrative adjustment. It was a named, intentional, personally authorized act of heaven's most intimate care. And the target of that act was you, not a category of people, not a demographic, not people going through difficulty. You, the one who found this video, the one who has been wondering whether God actually knows the specific contours of the ache you carry. He does. He sent proof before you even knew you needed it. There is a spiritual principle that almost never gets named directly because it sounds too radical for many religious frameworks. It is this: obedience and intimacy with God creates a spiritual atmosphere around a person that affects the behavior of the beings assigned to them. We see this in Acts 12. Peter is in prison, chained between two soldiers, awaiting execution. The church is praying earnestly, the text says. And in the middle of the night, an angel appears. The light fills the cell. The angel strikes Peter on the side to wake him, and then says, "Get up quickly." The chains fall off his wrists. The angel walks him past the first guard, the second guard, through an iron gate that opens by itself and out into the city. And then the angel departs. What I want you to notice is the quality of the angel's engagement. This is not a distant, formal dispatch. This is a being that is hands-on, practical, urgent, and specific. The angel tells Peter to put on his sandals, to wrap his cloak around him. These are not heavenly concerns. These are human concerns. And the angel attends to them because the one assigned to Peter has been so immersed in the details of Peter's life that the sandals matter. Your angel knows your sandals. Your angel knows the practical, specific details of the life you are living. And what happened recently, the unprecedented act, was not just in the grand spiritual sweep of things. It was in the details. In the moment you almost made a decision that would have taken you backwards. In the opportunity that seemed to appear out of nowhere. In the relationship that suddenly shifted. In the thought that entered your mind and felt like it came from somewhere outside of you. That was not coincidence. That was a being who knows your sandals, acting with full divine authorization. I want to close this section of the message by speaking to the part of you that is still holding a quiet, private fear. The fear that says, "What if I am not actually chosen? What if I am listening to this and it is meant for someone else and I am just borrowing a word that does not belong to me?" I want you to hold that fear gently for a moment and then examine what it is actually made of. It is made of every time someone communicated, directly or indirectly, that you were too much, not enough, too different, too intense, too quiet, too broken, or simply not the kind of person things work out for. And those voices, however they arrived, left deposits. They shaped the filter through which you hear everything, including this. But here is what Jeremiah heard when he tried to disqualify himself from the call of God. He said, "I do not know how to speak, I am only a youth." And God did not say, "You're right, let me find someone else." God said, "Do not say, I am only a youth, for to all to whom I send you, you shall go." God essentially overrode Jeremiah's self-assessment with divine declaration. Your self-assessment is not the final word on your eligibility. God's assessment is. And God's assessment, as communicated through the action your angel just took, is this: you are worth unprecedented movement. You are worth the kind of angelic engagement that has no prior precedent in your story. You are worth the full deployment of heaven's resources on your behalf. The fear is lying. You are the one this is for. And now we arrive at the part of this message that I have been building toward since the first word, because everything that came before was context. What comes now is the commission. The unprecedented thing your angel did was not the climax of your story. It was the turning of a page. It was heaven's way of saying, the preparation phase is complete. The testing ground has done its work. The stripping away of everything you were leaning on that was not God has served its purpose. And what remains? The version of you that still reaches upward even when every earthly support has been removed, that is the version of you that heaven has been waiting for. Moses did not become the deliverer of a nation until the wilderness dismantled the Egyptian prince. David did not step into kingship until the years of cave dwelling taught him something the palace never could. Esther did not save a people until the ordinary life she had built was disrupted in a way that seemed like catastrophe before it revealed itself as calling. What you called your wilderness, God called your preparation. What you called your exile, God called your formation. What you called your failure, God called your curriculum. And now your angel has done something that has never been done before in the specific, irreplaceable, cannot be replicated narrative of your life. A door has been opened that cannot close. A seal has been broken that was holding something in reserve. A word has been spoken over you in the courts of heaven that is now descending into the material world, looking for every physical and circumstantial form it can take. Type angel fire again if you are receiving this. Let that declaration ring through the comment section like a choir, because you are not alone in this room. There are others here who have been carrying the same weight, wondering the same things, hoping in the same quiet and costly way. We are a company of people who feel like foreigners, but we are actually a family. We are the ones chosen precisely because we could not fit into the ordinary. We were made too wide for the narrow paths everyone else was walking. And that wideness, that beautiful, inconvenient, exhausting wideness, is the exact shape of the door we were made to walk through. Your angel is on the other side. God is on the other side. And they are not waiting for you to be more qualified. They are waiting for you to believe that the door is real and take one step forward. Take the step. The unprecedented thing has already been done. Now it is your turn to walk into what it opened. Subscribe to this channel. Share this message with someone who needs to know heaven has not forgotten them. And come back. Because this is only the beginning of what God is saying to the chosen ones who were willing to stay and listen. Heaven has spoken. Now walk in it.